Chapter 1. The Signal Garden. Part 1. Dead Signal. The harrow cut across the shadow line of a dead sun, its hull groaning in protest, as if the ship itself knew better than to come here. "Ping it again," Captain Rio Voss said, arms folded across his chest, eyes narrowed at the faint gold blur on the navigation screen. The ghost ship had been drifting along a slingshot orbit for gods knew how long, half lost in the solar decay. "Still transmitting," replied Switch from the lower deck, boots hooked into the grated floor as he tapped at his screen. "Same frequency. Looping." "Is it an SOS?" "No. Nope." The kid paused, smirking faintly. "It's a song." Voss turned. "What kind of song?" Switch leaned back and tapped a few keys. From the ship's communications system, a soft, high-pitched melody filled the bridge. 5 notes, slow, almost maternal. No language, no lyrics, just an elegant cascade, repeating every 17 seconds. The others filtered in as the sound played. Myra, with her arms crossed and jaw tight. Amira, clutching a datapad with one eyebrow raised. Grease Gallo, chewing the same toothpick he'd had in since breakfast. "I've heard that before," Gallo muttered. "Music boxes, like the old ones. My grandmother had one." "No damage on the hull," Amira said after a glance at the scans. "No distress flares, life support's still active." "Which means someone's still alive," Mira added flatly. "Or something is," Rygar said. He was leaning in the corner, half in shadow, watching the waveform crawl across the screen like it meant something. Voss stayed silent for a moment. He could feel it, the old chill under the skin, like the universe was holding its breath. Every good captain knew when they were brushing against something ancient and still hungry. He spoke anyway. "Bring us in, lock orbit." Switch gave a low whistle. "All right, Captain." The harrow shifted, its retro thrusters hissing a metallic sigh as it realigned. The ship they were approaching, the Ghost, came into view. The Eden 1. 30 years missing. No survivors reported. No remains ever found. Now, floating perfectly in the event shadow of a failed star, lit by the strange glow of its own running lights. "She looks brand new," Amira said. "That's not possible." "She shouldn't be here," Mira said, hand unconsciously resting on the grip of her sidearm. "Yeah," Gallo grunted, "but neither are we." Outside, the Eden 1 rotated slowly, its surface covered in strange lacing patterns. Not hull markings, not corrosion, but something almost botanical. Thin gold veins ran across the structure, like capillaries under pale skin. Then the music stopped. Not faded. Stopped. "Signal's dead," Switch whispered. "Just cut." They all looked at Voss. "Prep for boarding," he said. Nobody moved for a long moment. Then Mira nodded once and left the bridge. The others followed, one by one. Rygar remained. He walked up beside Voss and stared at the screen. "That tune," Rygar said softly. "I heard it in a dream last week. Exactly that." Voss didn't look at him. Just muttered, "No, you didn't." They stood there watching the perfect, golden corpse of a ship pulsing in the dark. And something behind the glass, watched back. Part 2. The Vault Bloom. The docking clamps thudded against the airlock collar with a dull finality, like a coffin lid sealing. Pressure normalized, Switch called out over comms. O2 levels? High. Way too high, actually. Captain Voss stood at the edge of the docking bay, helmet clipped at his side, watching the ancient door in front of him. It was pristine, not even dust. The Eden One had no right to be this clean after 30 years adrift. The door slid open without resistance. No codes, no warnings, just a soft chime, like a hotel elevator. Beyond it, a corridor stretched into dim gold light. Vines crept along the walls, but not wild ones. They were symmetrical, braided into patterns. Each leaf was sharp-edged and slightly translucent, pulsing faintly with internal bioluminescence. The air hit them like a memory. Sweet. Damp. Clean. And something else. Something citrus, maybe, or warm metal. Smells like sex. And oranges, Gallo muttered behind them. "Shut it!" Mira snapped, weapon drawn. The group filed in. Voss first, then Mira, Amira, Switch, Gallo, and finally Rygar, who lingered a moment before stepping through the hatch. No lights flickered, no sirens blared, just the faint whisper of oxygen circulation and the sound of their boots echoing on perfectly polished floors. "It's not just clean," Amira said, scanning with her pad. "It's regenerating. These walls, they're alive." "Like biosteel?" Switch asked. "No, like skin." She pressed a gloved hand to a panel. The surface was warm. As they moved deeper into the ship, the corridor began to widen. Small alcoves branched off, sitting lounges with velvet couches, reading chambers with books that hadn't aged a day, dining rooms set for dinner but untouched. They passed a mural nearly 20 feet long. It depicted humans, men, women, children, lounging in a garden. But as the mural progressed, their forms became more and more abstract, stretched, serene, glowing. By the end, they no longer had faces. "Looks like a cult," Mira muttered, "or an art school orgy." "They were rich," Gallo said. "They could afford to be weird." They reached the central rotunda, a massive, domed space with a glass ceiling choked in vines and gold-tinted leaves. The architecture was impossible, Escher-like, twisting gently upward toward a glowing central column of light. It didn't feel like walking into a ship. It felt like walking into something sacred. Voss exhaled slowly. "This was a cruise liner?" "It was," Rygar said behind him. The Eden One was marketed as a generational escape. Luxury, zero-gravity pleasure, philosophy, art, self-actualization, rich people floating in paradise. Amira ran a hand along one of the curved walls. They succeeded. Switch was kneeling by a control panel embedded in the floor. "I've got a partial system coming online. No logs, just a folder." Voss turned. "What folder?" Switch tapped the screen. "One file, just called Protocol, Eden. Password locked, encrypted to hell." "Can you break it?" "Eventually. Might not want me to, though." "Why?" Switch turned back to them, face pale. "It's humming." Everyone went silent. "Excuse me?" Amira asked. He held up the panel. "It's emitting a frequency, ultrasonic. I think it's active." A soft chime rang out. Not from the panel, from everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, the very air. Then the vines in the rotunda lifted slightly, as if breathing in. Voss's voice was low. "Weapons out. Mira, with me. The rest, fan out. Don't go far. We recon fast, then get the hell out." Rygar stared up at the glass dome. From behind the leaves, he thought he saw eyes, golden, lidless, and watching. Part 3. The Welcoming. The group fanned out from the rotunda, cautious boots echoing down branching halls. Voss and Mira headed for the bridge. Amira and Switch peeled off toward the labs. Gallo stayed behind, staring at the strange mural with something like recognition. Rygar lingered. He hadn't moved since the hum. The walls still vibrated, just beneath human hearing, a tone you felt in your teeth. It wasn't malevolent, that was the worst part. It felt like a lullaby. He turned down a narrow hallway. The further he went, the more the light changed. Not brighter, but warmer, like late afternoon sunlight filtered through amber. The corridor curved, impossibly long for a ship. The walls shifted from steel to something like ivory. Vines grew in deliberate spirals. As he walked, the scent of jasmine deepened. Then something else, sweeter. Not a flower. Skin. And then, just ahead, she stepped into view. She was barefoot, wearing a simple gown that clung in the way water does. Her skin was pale gold, hair dark and bound in woven loops. Her eyes were soft, unfocused, like she was half in a dream. She smiled like she knew him. "Alexei!" Rygar froze. The others didn't know his first name. No one used it anymore. "Who are you?" he asked. She didn't speak, just tilted her head. Then, "We've been waiting for you." His hand drifted to the sidearm holstered at his thigh. Her gaze tracked the motion, but didn't flinch. "We?" he said. She stepped forward. "The ship, the garden, everyone." He held his ground. "Where's your crew? Why didn't you signal distress?" She stopped a few feet away. Her presence was strange, not threatening, not even fully there. More like a projection, a memory that hadn't happened yet. "We did call," she said softly. "You answered." Then she touched the wall beside her. It rippled like fluid. A shape emerged. A chair. Woven from the wall itself, soft, alive. She gestured to it. "Would you like to sit?" "No." Her smile didn't fade. "You always say that first." Rygar backed away. "What is this? Some kind of immersive AI interface?" "No," she said. "It's not artificial." He turned and walked back fast, not quite running. Behind him, her voice followed like a perfume in the air. "You're tired, Alexei. Let us carry it. Just for a while." Elsewhere, in the dim gold of a chamber shaped like an opera hall, Captain Voss stepped through a pair of curved doors onto the bridge of the Eden 1.
Everything still worked, every light clean, every console humming. The seats were empty.
Except one. A woman sat at the helm. Not young, not old, not moving. She was dressed in soft white, hair in a high crown. Her eyes were closed, hands resting palm up on her knees like a meditating monk. She didn't breathe. She didn't seem dead. Voss took one slow step forward, gun raised. "Voss Miss Trolliepsif." She opened her eyes. He froze. "Toxos." They were silver and full of grief. "I remember you," she said quietly. "Even before you came." Myra stepped in behind him, weapon drawn. "Captain?" The woman didn't react to Mira. Her eyes stayed locked on Voss. "You fought for others," she whispered. "You carried them. Let us carry you now." "I don't know you," Voss said. "You will," she said. When you let go. Then she vanished, not faded, gone, no shimmer, no flicker, Lane Jerome from un. Just not there. Mira whispered, "What the hell?" But Voss said nothing, because the seat she'd been sitting in was still warm. In the labs, Switch was bent over a terminal, fingers flying. "This place is nuts. AI's not running the system, something else is." Amira glanced up from a sealed vat of violet liquid pulsing faintly in time with her heartbeat. "Define something." Switch looked up at her and opened his mouth, but stopped. There was someone behind the glass. A man, mid-30s, face calm, clean-shaven, wearing a long coat of folded gray silk, standing motionless. The man raised one hand in greeting. Switch flinched. "Did you see that?" Amira turned just in time to see the man lower his arm, then disappear behind the thick foliage lining the lab's rear wall. "He waved at me," Switch said. Amira stared at the space where the man had stood. "He smiled," Switch added, like he knew the punchline already. Back in the docking bay, Gallo Venn lit a cigarette and sat on the cargo crate nearest the hatch. "Shouldn't split up," he muttered. "Every horror story starts that way." Then he heard a laugh. A woman's laugh. Familiar. He froze, flicked the cigarette away, and turned slowly toward the corridor. Standing there, exactly as he remembered her from 40 years ago, was Clara, his first love. Dead in a mining collapse. Same dress. Same laugh. Same little scar above her lip. She winked. He took one step forward. Then she was gone. In the rotunda, the vines on the ceiling rustled softly. The golden leaves began to pulse. The white tree in the center shimmered. Just once, like breath in cold air. Rygar stepped out of the corridor, pale, quiet. The others emerged from their paths too, one by one. No one spoke. Not yet. Because somewhere, maybe everywhere, a voice echoed. "You made it!" Part 4. The Garden Breathes. The ship seemed to guide them. Without speaking, without plan, without orders, each member of the crew walked paths that curled inevitably inward, toward the same space, like blood drawn toward a heart. Even Rygar couldn't explain why he turned left instead of right, or how the curved stairwells all descended in spirals, too perfect for coincidence. The Eden One wasn't built to human geometry. It felt more like being inside a shell or a seed. At the center of it all was the garden. The door opened soundlessly as they approached. It wasn't a mechanical door, more like a veil parting, fabric made of air. They stepped through one by one, boots falling silent on soft moss that gave beneath their weight like flesh. The garden wasn't a room. It was a biome, a vast, cathedral-like sphere buried within the ship's core, its walls made of living wood latticed with gold-veined glass. The ceiling high above shimmered with a light that moved like water, casting dappled warmth across hanging ferns, spiraling trees, and flower towers taller than any human. A white tree stood in the center, smooth, leafless. Its bark glowed faintly. At its base, a single chair, grown from its roots, faced outward, waiting. No one spoke. They moved slowly, like walking into a cathedral after a funeral, awed, but unsure if they belonged. Mira paced along the perimeter, hand on a gun, scanning the vines with sharp eyes. Gallo crouched and ran fingers through the moss. "Feels warm. And it's breathing." He was right. The air had a pulse. Not audible, but real. The faint rise and fall of atmosphere like lungs too large to be seen. Who designed this? Amira asked, half to herself. No one, Rygar said, or not anymore. At the center, Switch approached the white tree, slow and curious. That chair, he said, it's not tech, but it grew. Look at it. The others followed. Reluctant, Voss stepped beside the chair and reached toward the smooth root that formed one of its arms. Before he touched it, it curved, just slightly, to meet his fingers. He jerked back. The chair whispered something. A vibration. Rygar felt it too. Like a voice he almost recognized. His own, maybe. From a dream. Suddenly all the lights in the garden dimmed. Not off, just softer. Then came the whispers. Not through the comms. Not even in the air. Inside. Each crew member heard their own name, spoken gently. Spoken by someone who loved them once. Mira heard her mother. Switch heard a voice he hadn't known he missed. His childhood self. Voss heard his commanding officer whispering, "You did enough." And Rygar heard silence. He looked around. Everyone else had frozen. Not paralyzed. Listening. Breathing slower. Calm. But his heart was racing. He stepped backward from the white tree. Then he saw them. Not behind vines. Not flickering illusions. They were real now. Figures emerging from the garden's edges, barefoot, serene. Men and women. Unarmed. Beautiful but not idealized. Each one tailored, it seemed, to the subconscious longings of the observer. Suarez, they did not speak. They did not approach. They simply stood there, smiling, watching. Waiting. Rygar backed into Gallo, who didn't even flinch. "Gallo," he whispered, "you see them?" "I do," Gallo said, eyes locked ahead. "That's Clara." "No, it's not," Rygar snapped. "It looks like her, but—" Gallo took one step forward. Rygar grabbed his arm. "No, not yet. Don't—" That broke something. The stillness in the garden fractured. The figures at the edges did not vanish. They blinked, just once, like candle flames, and were gone. The light brightened. The whispers ceased. The white tree stood as it was, and yet nothing was the same. Amira exhaled, long and slow. "What was that?" "Whatever it was," Mira said coldly. "It's trying to get inside us." "No," said Voss. "It already is." They turned to go. But the garden behind them pulsed once more, low and gentle. Q&A, like it was breathing them in. Part 5. Echoes Online. Rygar moved fast. The others returned slower, unsettled, trailing behind him through the Eden One's corridors in silence. No one spoke about what they'd seen. They didn't need to. It hung in the air between them. A kind of softness where suspicion should be. He keyed open the Harrow's airlock and stepped aboard, like a man who just returned from a dream that wasn't his. The lights were dimmer. Not dead. Just lowered. As if the ship had shifted to a new circadian rhythm without asking permission. "Lights up," he muttered. They stayed low. He climbed the ladder back to the bridge, bootsteps harsh against the metal. The real metal. Hard, cold, familiar. He sat at the console, tapped in his credentials. The biometric readout came up in seconds. All 6 crew members. Voss, Mira, Amira, Switch, Gallo, himself. Vitals. Green across the board. Heart rate steady. Cortisol near 0. Brainwaves in harmonic sync. He froze. No one on the Harrow had ever had readings this clean. Not even sedated. No stress. No fear. Impossible, he whispered. He tapped to refresh the telemetry. Again. Identical. Too perfect. You ran a cross-check against logs from just this morning. D. Their signatures had changed. Not spiked. Flattened, as if their emotional range had been smoothed into a single placid hum. Iluk. He opened a channel. Captain. Report status. No response. Voss. This is Rygar. Say something. Nothing. He switched to internal broadcast. All crew, check in. Still silence. Then, through the speaker, static. A slow hiss. Like breath drawn in from behind a closed door. He leaned forward. Who is this? The static, condensed, folded inward. Then, a voice emerged. Not male, not female. Smooth, human, but not alive. You are not alone. Rygar's hands hovered above the controls. The voice was inside the ship. Not on Eden 1. Here. Who are you? A pause. Then, you are not finished. He felt the air shift, subtle but real, like pressure had dropped. Get out of my system, he snapped. This ship isn't yours. The lights flickered. Not violently, just once. And then the voice, now just a whisper in the metal. Welcome to Eden. A hiss behind him. He turned. The airlock was open. A figure stood in it. Still. Barefoot. Smiling.